Today we'll be looking at the BGCSE English language papers. My name is Wendy Bowe and I will help you to get to know the papers. So welcome, let's start on our journey. Can you tell me how many papers there are? There are actually 4 language papers. Let's look at each one of those papers a little bit more closely. There is first paper 1, the continuous writing paper. Paper 2, our oral comprehension. Paper 3, the written comprehension and directed writing paper. And paper 4, the extended comprehension and directed writing paper. In order to get at least a C grade, you must take papers 1, 2, and 3. These are our core papers. To miss any of these papers will result in an X grade. In order to obtain an A or B grade, you must take the paper 4, which is our extended paper. Let's get to know paper 1, the continuous writing paper. Most people do not like this paper, but it is of very great importance. For this paper, you will be given 1 hour and 10 minutes to complete it. Additionally, you are expected to write 350 to 500 words. It requires some planning. Additionally, it is worth 40 marks of the entire exam. And finally, your language, your expression of ideas, and your grammar are of key importance, so you must pay attention to those.
The first 10 minutes of this exam will be used to read through each question and decide on which question it is that you are going to respond to. You will also use some of this time for planning, which means that you will jot down any important information, any relevant details, any main ideas that you wish to use to help with the development of your essay. You will be asked to write your response to the essay question in the answer booklet that will be provided for you. And you will be asked to write a composition or an essay based on one of the topics that will be given to you. You are not to write on more than one topic. You should write anywhere between 350 to 500 words. To write less will mean that you will have an underdeveloped essay. You should pay attention to punctuation, spelling, and handwriting so that your ideas are expressed clearly and your examiner is able to read through them and understand them. No dictionaries are permitted in the exam. Therefore, you should study and review all vocabulary that you have been taught by your teacher. This exam is worth 40% of the marks of the entire paper. And it is paper 1 that will be used in conjunction with paper 4 to determine whether or not you will receive that A or B grade. It is imperative, therefore, that you clearly express your ideas and avoid any grammatical or sentence structure or any language errors throughout your writing. There are 8 questions on paper 1. These questions will address the 4 modes of writing that you have studied over the years. So you may find questions that are related to narrative writing or descriptive writing or expository writing or persuasive writing. You must be able to employ all of the techniques that are associated with each mode of writing. You will find in this exam that there is a poetry prompt. You can decide to write using any of the 4 modes of writing to best convey your ideas about this poetry prompt. The final question of paper 1 is usually the picture prompt. The last question is the picture prompt question. You will find 2 pictures. Whatever you write must be based on the images and the ideas conveyed in the picture.
Now, let us look at paper 2, the oral comprehension. In this paper, you will be given 1 hour and 15 minutes for its completion. It is worth 15 marks. It requires careful and critical listening skills. You will be required to take notes. It requires attention to speakers' techniques. I will point out here that although this is paper 2, this will be the first paper that you sit for the English language exam.
This paper is also known as the oral comprehension paper. You will be given 1 hour and 15 minutes for its completion. For this exam, all information and the passage will be played on a recording, so you are to listen attentively. The recording will be played twice. That is important to know. During the first playing, however, you will simply listen for the general impression of what is being said, and you will make mental note of the main ideas and any relevant or important information. At the end of the first recording, you will be given an opportunity to take notes. There is a note section that will be provided to you. In the note section, you will find subheadings that will help to guide you as you listen during the second recording. During the second recording, you will be allowed to take notes as you listen, and then you will be given 45 minutes to respond to the questions that follow. There are two parts to the oral comprehension. Part 1 is the notes section. In this section, you will find subheadings that will help to guide you and help you to organize all of the information that you would have heard during the recording. You will pay attention to these subheadings and you will jot down any information that is related to them. This does not mean, however, that you are not allowed to make any additional notes or that you are unable to use information that is not highlighted in the subheadings here in the notes section. Along the margins, you can write any information that seems important. One of the things that I would want to point out here is that you should provide some kind of example for any idea that you write in your note section. You may need it later on. At the end of the note section, the recording will direct you to the second part of this exam. It is here that you will find the questions to be answered. As you read through the questions, you will refer to your notes. You will also pay attention to the task and keywords that are provided in each question. Remember, these help to guide you and to help you to give accurate information. In addition, you're going to pay attention to the number of points at the end of each question. These are important because these direct you as to how many answers you are to provide for each question. If you pay attention to them, you can get the maximum amount of points needed for this paper. The final question for the oral comprehension is usually a technique question. You will probably be asked to pay attention to some technique that you have seen in writing or that you have been hearing as you've been practicing the oral comprehension.
Now, let us look at paper 3. It is the written comprehension and directed writing paper. For this paper, you will be given 2 hours and 10 minutes for its completion. It is worth 45 marks. It requires careful and critical reading. It requires use of a variety of writing styles, summary writing, and accurate language. And finally, you will be required to re-express ideas in your own words.
This paper is also known as the written comprehension and directed writing paper. You will be given 2 hours and 10 minutes for this exam. The first 10 minutes will be used for your reading time. It is at this time you will become acquainted with the content of the passage. You do need that content to respond efficiently and effectively to the questions. You are to answer all questions in the answer booklet that will be provided. You are not to answer the multiple choice questions in the question booklet. Write your multiple choice question answers in the answer booklet that has been provided for you. Remember to number your answers clearly. There are 2 sections to paper 3. The first section contains the passage. Once you've completed reading, you will now move to the questions section. There are multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and summary writing questions. You must pay attention to keywords and key expressions as well as task words. These will assist you with understanding what the question is asking you to do, and then you will be able to respond to the question in an effective and accurate way. Another important note is to pay attention to the number of points at the end of each question. This is going to be of utmost importance because it will help you to determine how many answers you should give for each question. When you get to the summary writing question, look for a word count. Look for a paragraphing. Once you see these, you will know that you are to write a continuous piece of writing that should include a very brief topic sentence and a concluding sentence, and that you should be using transitions effectively. This question is usually worth 10 points, and it is for this question that you will begin to pay attention specifically to your expression and to your language. You are going to write as clearly and as precisely as you possibly can. Finally, you will arrive at section B. It is in section B that you will find the directed writing question. Usually, the instructions are very specific and clear as to what you should be doing for this question. For this directed writing question, you will be asked to use a specific type or form of writing. You will be asked to write either a speech or a tribute or a letter to the editor or a formal letter. Whichever form of writing is asked of you, you are to use the information from the passage that you have read. In order for you to be able to obtain the maximum amount of points, you will have to employ your inference and drawing conclusion skills. In addition, you will be using your summary writing skills. You will be asked to use no more than 400 words. Again, pay attention to the task of the question. Sometimes directed writing questions can have more than one part, so it is imperative that you pay attention to all parts of the question. This will ensure that you get the maximum amount of points.
Now let us look at our final paper, paper 4, which is the extended comprehension and directed writing paper. This is the paper that you have been given 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete. It is worth 52 marks. It requires also careful and critical reading. You will be required to use a variety of writing styles, summary, and accurate language. Also, it will require you to re-express ideas in your own words.
In previous years, candidates were given 2 hours and 10 minutes, as is highlighted here in our sample. Since 2019, candidates have been given an additional 20 minutes for the completion of this exam. You will now have 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete it. 10 minutes will be used for reading time. All answers are to be written in the answer booklet that will be provided. For paper 4, there are 2 sections. Section A is the first section, and it will contain the first of 2 passages to be read for this exam. At the end of this first passage, you will find 2 questions. Question 1, which is the summary question, as you can see here by the number of words that are to be used. And then you will have question 2, which is the technique question. I would admonish you to read through each question and pay attention to the task and keywords in order to determine what it is that you should do with each question. The answers for these questions can only be obtained from the first passage. You are not allowed to use information from the second passage to respond to the questions 1 and 2 of section A. Section B contains the second passage of paper 4. At the end of the passage, you will find the final 2 questions for this exam. You must adhere to the word limit of all of the questions of this exam. It showcases your ability to summarize ideas. This is a very important skill. Finally, for question number 4, you have the directed writing question, which is similar to the directed writing question on paper 3. For question 4 of the paper 4 exam, you will be allowed to use information from both passages. So do take advantage of both passages to respond to this question and try to obtain the maximum amount of content points possible.